Today, they had dinner with his wife late and went to bed late as well. The old forester, Mr. Alberto, had long been retired, so he allowed himself to sleep in a little longer in the mornings. He had seen and experienced so much during his long life that it was scary to even think about it. Today, he and his grandmother stayed up late watching TV. Radio, newspapers, and television were the only entertainment for a villager. In winter, the izba was heated so much that Alberto even scolded his wife for making the stove too hot for the night, saying it would be hard to sleep. Just as they lay down, snuggled up to each other, the dog in the barn became anxious about something and woke the owners with loud barking. In villages, people always feared wolves in winter, so they protected their livestock and locked up the dogs at night, either in the barn or in the house. A hungry wolf wouldn't hesitate to attack a dog. True, it was already March, but in their harsh lands, it was still considered winter. The forester and his wife didn't have any livestock, but they still hid their dog Diego just in case. Moreover, the area was remote and bears could approach the village, while escaped prisoners sometimes appeared in the forests. "Lie down," Alberto commanded his wife. "I'll go see what's going on." He put on his felt boots, threw on his coat, took his hunting rifles off the hook, and went out to the barn. Spring must be tempting the dog to play and frolic, thought the old forester when he saw the dog spinning around and unable to stand still for a second. "What's gotten into you, Diego?" he asked the dog, which clearly showed that he was very excited. They went into the yard, and the dog rushed straight to the barn, wagging his tail impatiently and whining. "What's going on now, Diego? Who did you bring to us in the middle of the night?" Alberto asked, slowly approaching the barn. The door was ajar, and the old man pushed it open with the barrel of his gun and looked around. It was dark inside, but when the door opened, the light from the windows of the izba illuminated the hay-strewn floor, on which lay some large animal. Upon closer inspection, Alberto was surprised to see that it was a she-wolf. She lay on her side, breathing heavily, her swollen sides rising and falling. In March, wolves were mating, as Alberto, who had spent his whole life in the forest with wild animals, well knew. Diego had to be locked up again so as not to interfere. Meanwhile, the she-wolf showed no signs of agitation or fear. Apparently, desperate need forced the predator to seek help from humans, thought the forester. He approached closer and saw that the she-wolf was wounded, there was dried blood on her paw, and it was clear that she had been injured recently. "Poachers are at it again," thought the former forester. "They never dared to do such things in my presence, unless they were locals." But even with them, Alberto always kept the conversation short. Leaning on his gun, the old man squatted down to examine the wounds more closely. Thank goodness, it wasn't a bullet wound, most likely, she had been injured by a sharp branch or twig. The wound, while not fatal, still needed to be treated. "Oh, it's an old acquaintance," the forester noticed a large black spot on the she-wolf's chest. He had encountered her once in the forest when she was still an inexperienced wolf cub. Back then, 3 drunken poachers had been tormenting the poor animal on the ground, which greatly amused and delighted them, and they laughed loudly throughout the forest. Alberto didn't know how they managed to catch her. Apparently, curiosity led the wolf cub far from home, and she fell into the hands of the drunken men. They had no intention of killing her, they just wanted to scare her. Alberto approached closer, clearly not a local, and the poachers had a car nearby. "What's going on here?" the forester raised his voice. At the sight of the angry bearded hunter, they backed away. Alberto saw the frightened wolf cub, no more than 2 months old, growling, whining, and shaking with fear under the net they had thrown over it. The forester cursed, not sparing strong words, and advised the trio to leave quietly. He clicked the rifle's bolt and, taking aim, shot out the rear wheel of the car. "You have exactly 10 minutes to change the tire and leave this place. I won't be dealing with you, time is ticking," he added, and again cocked the gun. Cursing everything in the world, the men considered it best to leave quickly, and indeed, it wasn't even 10 minutes before they were gone. The forester removed the net from the poor frightened wolf cub, and it quickly ran away into the thicket. Yes, it was about 10 years ago, and here they met again. From a little frightened beast, the wolf cub turned into a beautiful female, so she hadn't forgotten the old forester. Alberto returned home and called his wife. "Daniela, get dressed, I need your help, it's something in your domain as a woman." Daniela used to work as a nurse, and she also had a great knowledge of herbal remedies, knowing which decoction was needed for which illness. Naturally, childbirth was not a man's business. "I'm afraid she'll bite me," Daniela said, dressing warmly. "She won't bite you hard, you're a silly woman," the forester grumbled. "She came to us for help, not to bite us." Skillfully washing the she-wolf's wound, Daniela applied a bandage and some homemade healing ointment. "Now everything will heal like on a dog," she told her husband. "And the birth?" "You're a silly man," the woman teased her husband. "Births will come on their own schedule, when they're supposed to. I hope my help won't be needed here, nature will take care of everything, so let's leave her alone, she needs rest now." By morning, the forest guest had already settled in and felt much better. In the morning, Daniela went to the village to get milk for the she-wolf. They lived with her husband on the outskirts, almost near the forest. Maybe that's why the she-wolf came to their barn, or maybe she really remembered how Alberto once saved her. At the store, the forester's wife heard the news that the poachers had wiped out a wolf pack in the forest the day before. "So that's how it is," the woman understood. "The she-wolf didn't just come to us for help, she was saving herself and her offspring from hunters." Daniela hurried home to feed the exhausted she-wolf with milk. Opening the door of the barn, she saw that the gray predator had started giving birth. One cub was already wriggling under its mother's belly. Seeing the squirming and growling gray bundles, tears welled up in the woman's eyes. The she-wolf lay on her side, exhausted from the events of the past nights. Now new worries had appeared in her life. And Daniela and Alberto also had new concerns. For several months, they had to feed the wolf family, making sure no one in the village knew about it. True, once the she-wolf recovered and gained strength, she began to go to the forest on her own. The gray mother was usually absent for long, probably hunting, as she always returned home with prey, bringing back hare ears or quails. The food caught by the she-wolf was enough for everyone, even Diego, who gradually resigned himself to the fact that a wolf pack lived in the barn and even began to guard the new tenants, growling menacingly at anyone who tried to approach their yard. Some time passed, and when the snow melted, the she-wolf left the old barn and took her pack with her. But she didn't forget her saviors, and often Alberto found on the doorstep of his house either game or part of a deer or wild boar. It was a gift to him and his wife from the noble beast.